It's Matt! We're at the cabin! He's pushing us towards the edge! No!
So, the year is 2014, and the director of The Blair Witch is back with another found footage horror film. Connor, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the film Exists, which, as mentioned, is not only a found footage film, but is a Bigfoot found footage film, which is something which got me really excited when I saw it pop up on Amazon Prime about a week or two ago. And I love found footage films. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a standalone one or a sequel or indeed a prequel to a pre-existing one which is crap. For instance, the Paranormal Activity series, I will watch them and give all of them, you know, I'll go into them blind quite happily, because that subgenre to me is, I don't know, I love it so much. So when I saw this come up, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be fantastic. And yeah, it didn't quite end up that way. That we'll get to, but yeah, we're looking at something which is a huge disappointment when, for those who know him, Eduardo Sanchez, as Kay mentioned, did the Blair Witch Project. He co-wrote and directed it. So kind of one think, oh, you know what, this is, especially with it being found footage as well, because that film pretty much, let's face it, birthed the subgenre of found footage horror films back in the day when it came out. So you'd think kind of straight away, oh, Eduardo Sanchez is doing another one. This has got so much potential. And with something as mysterious as Bigfoot, I'd never seen a Bigfoot found footage film before, never even heard of one. So when I saw all those, if you take all those things together and mash them together, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be quite something. And it was, but for all the wrong reasons. I had two very different viewing experiences. And funnily enough, the first time I watched it, I actually really enjoyed it. It's got its problems. It's got very kind of token, stereotypical characters of a American found footage horror film. You know, you've got the person who's operating the camera for the most part, who's loud and obnoxious, and you can't wait for their eventual comeuppance, which is always going to happen. So, I mean, you've got some insufferable characters like that, and you have the token kind of jock, big muscly guy who thinks he knows everything and is an arsehole to everyone apart from the girl that's there. But I could see past a few of those things and enjoy it for what it was. But then I'll get to my experience of the second viewing and why it kind of altered it so much in a moment. But what did you think then, from just from the off?
Well, so interesting, just to quickly chime in, I didn't think, I thought you liked it. So I know you said you've watched it twice, so maybe you rewatched it for this and realised maybe you didn't like it as much. Well, so my mindset of going into this was Connor recommended it for the show, and I'd never heard of it. And when I looked it up, I saw it as the director of The Blair Witch, which I'm a big fan of. I think it's still genuinely quite scary and very effective. And I thought a Bigfoot found footage film by the director of probably the king of found footage films. Sorry, I thought it can't be too bad. And I remember seeing reviews online, people stating it's like the scariest found footage movie ever, and it's like a return to form for the genre that hasn't had any like. There's been a few like obviously the Blair Witch remake and is it as above so below.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah, like Hollywood have tried to, reinvent the genre in their own way, and they've kind of all sort of failed. But I kind of went into this with an open mind, but I thought it was quite awful, if I'm honest. Yeah. I thought there was moments that were very close to being intense. And then, just the cheap jump scares that I had expected. People screaming in front of a camera, just holding a camera up to those going, ah, and like stuff like that. And I think I just want to add quickly, it's very difficult to make a Bigfoot film scary, because if you have a low budget, you're going to have a man running around in a suit. If you have a high budget, you're going to have to make him CG. And a found footage Bigfoot film is never going to have a high budget. So it's a risky game, and I think it didn't pay off in this respect for this film.
No, I think, I agree. I think it was a bit of a poison chalice from the start. And I mean, just with regards to the budget, I have no idea how much it was, but when doing my research, I saw that it made just shy of $42,000 in box office, so to speak.
Oh no!
Exactly $41,930. So even though I don't know the exact figure for the budget, I know for a fact they didn't even break even on the fucking thing. But it was bitterly disappointing second time round. So what I'll kind of elaborate on it now. So when I first watched it, I was so excited because, I'm not going to be one of these people who's like, Bigfoot definitely is real, blah, blah, blah. But I've always been fascinated by the mystery of Bigfoot and Sasquatch and stuff all over the world. And I love found footage. So like I said earlier, when they're combined, brilliant. And I watched it, and I think I tried to be as impartial as possible when I watch films, especially now that we're doing this. I kind of like to have as clear a mind as possible, but I got so excited about it. So when I saw all the they're cheesy and corny conventions of a found footage film, but if they're done right, then I think they're quite effective. And whilst this wasn't, each time I saw like a jump scare, or I got a hint of Bigfoot on the camera, when they're on the CCTV on the porch looking out.
That was one scene I thought was effective. Yeah, because there was no like music. It was very there was no music. It was just the imagery of a figure from far away walking, and the sound design I thought was generally quite well done as well. I will give props to that. Especially I watched it with headphones on, like surround headphones on, and some of the scenes I thought were very close to being spooky because of the sound design, but it either cut too soon or had a fake jump scare or something like that, and just sort of fucked it.
It was a bit too predictable. So I watched it, and like I said earlier, there are things which, even for me, being a massive fan of all this kind of stuff, it was still a bit stupid or a bit annoying to me. As for example, the guy filming the whole thing, I think his name's Brian. He's one of the brothers who the shack belongs. The shack belongs to their uncle, rather. And then so I watched that, really excited, and said to Kane, we need. Let's do this because it's a bit different, and we're kind of diverting away from the Japanese / kaiju genre for a little bit. And then I watched another film literally as recently as I think it was 3 days ago, called Willow Creek, which is another found footage Bigfoot film. And whilst I'm not going to say that it's an amazing film, but having watched Exists and then watching Willow Creek and then going back to watch Exists again, Willow Creek blows it out of the water in terms of, and because it deals with a lot of similar aspects that Exists deals with. So it tries to have a lot of tension, especially when they're trapped in this cabin in the dead of night, and you have this Bigfoot or this creature running around, and you hear it banging on the walls and smashing things, and that's quite intense. And then suddenly they put the camera up to the window, because obviously you're going to do that if you're trying to hide and save yourself, and it pops up and like, oh, for fuck's sake. But Willow Creek deals really, I don't know if you've seen it, Kane, or for those who have seen it.
That scene, I know what you're going to talk about, in the tent. It deals with that part of found footage and the mystery and everything and the tension, and it does it really well. Like I said, Willow Creek's not an amazing film. In fact, it's pretty crap. Because not much competition.
no, exactly. As Kay mentioned, a found footage film about Bigfoot is going to be quite hard to do. But there's a certain aspects which they both deal with, and when I look at them side by side, it's like, how did they get it so wrong with this? Especially someone like Eduardo Sanchez, who gave us one of, if not the best found footage film,
and also a great tent scene in Blair Witch as well, which is very similar to the Willow Creek scene, where again it's what you hear.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Let me get my jeans on. Take the video camera.
Jump into Exists quickly. I first of all, I think I never really understood why they were filming, why Ryan was filming, and for me,
Yeah.
I don't know, it sort of jumped into it so quickly. Like the opening credits is this huge like montage, so there's no, it's like you're not going to get any character development, you're going to get it all over with this while we play music and show them doing fun stuff for 10 minutes. And it was just kind of like lazy, I thought, like really lazy.
It was very, very lazily done, I think. You know, like it just seemed like, it's found footage, but they were filming for the sake of it. Whereas
I didn't get
in
it.
Blair Witch, they're doing a documentary, and Willow Creek, the guy is shooting a documentary about Bigfoot with his girlfriend. And what's good about that is you don't actually see anything really to do with their encounter with him until about an hour in. But I'm digressing anyway, because I seem to think that that film's more worthy of being reviewed than it exists. But it's what irritates me is just the fact that with found footage, what makes it really effective and you know quite powerful and where you get the fright and the scares, like you mentioned, is when the thing which has given them trouble, whether it be like a demon or a monster or some kind of deformed person, you hardly ever see them, and that could either be because you physically can't because they're a spirit or something, or they just the director and the writers just don't bother showing them. And it's like, not so much the second time when I was watching it, but the first time when I watched it, I thought, okay, we're still seeing a bit too much of Bigfoot up close in Exists, you know, at the window, and when the bit where they're hiding in the basement and he's blatantly up there at the cellar door kind of ripping it off and stuff. You see a bit too much of him, and I thought, but you know what, you do see him, but it's still, you know, it's not, the whole thing's not standing there sort of thing. And so I kind of forgave it, and then right at the fucking end, literally probably the last 10-15 seconds of the film, you just see him standing there in all his glory, and it's the most ridiculous thing as well, this Sasquatch, Bigfoot monster, whatever it's meant to be, because it doesn't typically look like how you'd think Bigfoot would.
It just looks like the monkeys at the start of 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's what I thought. That's how I thought it looked.
It's really not far off, but it's like you've got this guy, you know, people running and they get picked off one by one, as you'd assume, and you finally have one person left, and he's standing on a bridge, and he films back, and he's just standing there going, oh, like looking like he's ready to fucking kill him. And it zooms in on his face, and he looks a bit creepy, and you wouldn't want to be fucking chased by that thing in the dead of night. Of course you wouldn't. But it just then kind of walks off. And I don't know if that's because it's made its point, because I mean, I don't, without spoiling it too much, they're
man, spoiler zone.
Okay, fuck it. They're being chased by this, I assume it's a mother as well. I assume it's a female Sasquatch, because at the start of the film, when they're traveling to their uncle's shack, they run something over in the road, and they can't tell what it is, and before they get a chance to look, it runs off. Now, you obviously instantly assume that's going to be the one that's chased them, and it actually isn't. It appears to be one of its offspring, which later dies from the injuries.
Yeah, like their daughter, I assumed. Yeah. So it's kind of, I quite like that side of it. They made it seem like more of a wild animal than a monster, which I guess it was like a Bigfoot revenge movie.
Yeah, which I guess is slightly commendable, because I think what is quite easy to do when you have something like Bigfoot, or even just, you know, when there's a sort of creature, you make it too monstrous and you kind of get lost in that. But it looks as if they did treat it as it was an animal, and it would be, you know, hurting and upset that its offspring died. And there was quite, God forbid me saying it, is quite a cool bit, I guess, when it's beating the shit out of the guy on the camera who's operating the camera, and he drags into like a shallow grave, and all of the other characters are in there, and they're either dead or severely injured, and they're laying
cool
next
imagery,
they're laying next to the corpse of the Bigfoot mother's baby, and he manages to run away, and then that's when we get led to that weird bridge moment, which is just very awkward.
Well, because he's about to shoot himself, right?
That's it. Yes.
It was, I think the best way I could describe the film was it's very, very close to being okay. Like it's
I was about to say okay.
Like it's very, frustrated in a way that it like we were saying earlier, there's not much competition. There's not many. There's like straight to DVD like sci-fi Bigfoot films, I'm sure, and like shitty paranormal TV shows. But in terms of the film market, I'm sure Bigfoot as a genre isn't high in demand. So
no, it's
it's difficult because it is commendable for them to try to make this a little bit unique with like the story in terms of how it is essentially a Bigfoot revenge movie in terms of Bigfoot getting revenge, and but at the end, man, I just didn't care. No scenes really scared me or were close to scaring. And it was just a bloke in a monkey suit running around. That's all I felt.
It did seem like, you know, when I watch found footage horror films, you know that the people are going to be picked off either one by one or all at the same time, but you know that there's going to be a big loss of life. And sometimes there's a film I watched a couple of days ago, and I'm not going to say too much about it because hopefully we might go on and do it at a later date, but there's characters in that you really care about and you don't want anything bad to happen to them at all, irrespective of what it is. But this one, I kind of felt like I can't wait for them to die. As horrible as it sounds, it's like, can't wait for that twat on the camera to die, or I can't wait for the big muscly guy who is being an arsehole for no reason other than the fact that he's trying to keep up this macho, over masculine. They're all insufferable pieces of shit, and I was very happy. I was very, very happy when Bigfoot picked them off. But you know, other than that, that's probably the only satisfaction, albeit very sadistic satisfaction that the film.
Well, you know, you're gonna, if you go into a Bigfoot found footage film, you know the characters aren't gonna be the strong point. You just hope you might get some spooky thrills, and I feel like this is where this film fails. You don't really. And I think we are genuinely in the minority because online it has pretty decent reviews on Letterboxd and like IMDb. So hey, maybe we're the crazy ones, but it didn't do anything for me, and it didn't do anything for you either. So maybe he can do a Blair Witch 3 and everything will be fixed.
He just should just leave it alone now. I just, you know, I enjoyed it somewhat the first time round, and then I'm kind of torn. Like, had I not watched Willow Creek, I wouldn't have watched Exists Again, and then this could have been a very different review. But then I'm kind of glad that I did see another thing of the exact same, you know, it's basically the same story of somewhat in terms of the fact it's based on Bigfoot in the subgenre found footage. I watched that and I was like, yeah, no, this shit's all over that, and this isn't even that good. But you know, in the grand scheme of how, you know, in like the rankings of found footage, when you have Blair Witch up here and stuff like Grave Encounters, which I love as well, both of them for that matter are up there. It's way down. Dig a hole in the floor and stick your hand in that, because it's not great. It's a shame. I feel bad for suggesting that you watch it, because I feel like I've probably been responsible for you wasting an hour and a half of your life.
No, well, that's the positive. It's very short. It's like 80 something minutes. Hey man, you gotta I'm open to watching anything, and I know you are too, and that's the glory of this channel. We're just watching whatever the fuck we want, reviewing whatever the fuck we want, and if we hate it, we hate it. If we love it, we love it. And it's just fun to just talk about it and have fun with it.
Yeah, and this film you can't. So it's a massive thumbs down from me. I won't ever be watching it again, certainly not in a hurry anyway, and I wouldn't recommend it as such, not in a spiteful way, but there's better Bigfoot found footage films out there, but then there's also better found footage films out there, so just leave it alone. Let it come up when you recommend it on Prime if that's the kind of thing you're into, and just let it sit
you're
there.
Into shit, wait till this pops up on your Amazon Prime.
No, because it pops up on mine.
No, so there we go. Yeah, fair enough.
Not massively into shit, but yeah, just let it just sit there and look back at you envying the other films that you're watching over it. Just don't bother.
I also feel like it can be recommended based off the fact that if you're with friends and you need some alcohol, kind of what we said with the Stardust Brothers, but the Stardust Brothers is fantastic.
That's an insult to it, though.
No. It would be very fun with friends, I think because it's not so bad, it's good worthy, but I know like me and Connor's friend group have a very specific sense of humor, so I know we would find some of the dialogue choices and some of the scenes quite funny. So I feel like
absolutely,
yeah, like you can have fun with it if you have some alcohol. But,
if you really want to.
I think that's where my thoughts for this film end. Alcohol.
Yeah, crack open a hooch with your friends, get a bit merry and watch it, and then drink so much afterwards that you forget what just happened.
There we go.
If you haven't already 5 minutes after it's ended, because I certainly did. So yeah, forgettable at best, I think. But
it's certainly not
the
the scariest Bigfoot movie ever made, and I don't think there is a scariest Bigfoot movie ever made, and I don't think we're ever going to see the scariest Bigfoot movie made, because I think it's impossible to make a scary Bigfoot movie. Case closed.
Yeah, I think that can just sit in the ether and just we can imagine what a terrifying Bigfoot film would be, but I don't think we're ever going to see one. So let's just keep it as a massive mystery and just leave it the fuck alone from now on, I think.